And we carry on with our inflation result assessment and analysis. This time we're joined by Angie Pacis, President and CEO of AIA Investment Management Philippines. Good to see you again, Angie. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Kathy. Nice to see you too.
All right, so you were tipping for inflation at 1.9 for June. What do you make of the actual result? It's far slower than your own forecast.
Yeah, okay. So that was actually a welcome development. We were actually expecting that the dollar and the 1.9 was the high end of the range. We were expecting putting in a conservative expectation, mainly because of the surge in the dollar and the surge in oil prices last month, right, on account of the Middle East war. But if we were actually still happy in the sense that, the BSP actually still reduced its risk-adjusted inflation, and that number is still well below the 2 to 4% range wherein the BSP actually moves. So the trajectory of inflation actually gives the BSP elbow room to respond to any downturn in growth as a result of all the things that are happening in the global economy.
Mm-hmm. From your perspective, Angie, how are consumers and business reacting to the current inflation and interest rate environment, if you will? Because as PJ was telling us earlier, it's been difficult for consumers. Despite slower inflation, businesses aren't really spending for the first 6 months.
Okay, the investors are actually reacting to the fact that they do expect a recovery in inflation spending. It's really a quirk of our inflation basket, right? And it's affected by seasonal factors. Around this time, monsoon seasons, you really do see a traditional surge in the prices of agricultural commodities. But if you actually look at the other components of your basket, rice is actually down, and it looks like there's more room for it to go down. So rice in the inflation basket constitutes around 8%, but for the poorest of the poor in the Philippines, that's 30%. So especially if the government continues its targeted 20 peso rice, that actually frees up spending power for other goods and services. And if you look at
the 50 peso wage hike help, though, and giving them purchasing power? But what would that mean for inflation, though?
We are expecting a bit of an uptick, but as long as your inflation expectation is below the 2 to 4% BSP range, and the BSP is actually forecasting for it to stay below 2%, that should be actually okay. And one other thing that you need to consider is that we have been a beneficiary of the trade scare that happened on Liberation Day, because what has happened is China has shifted. It's the biggest manufacturer of goods in the world. It has shifted to other countries, and we are actually seeing lower prices of goods because of the shift in the maybe I should call it dumping of Chinese goods.
Yeah, I'd like to see the other end of that being a net beneficiary, because the Trump pause is still going to come on July 9th. But how do you position yourself amid what is in a big way still uncertain? How do you position yourself in consumer-linked companies? Will they be positioned to benefit? Are you going to be more nuanced in how you invest in them? Because we are domestically driven.
Yes. So we're overall bullish on consumption spending. But of course, the different companies will be at different stages, right? Valuation will come into play. We're actually very positive on mall spending. Yeah. So you see more purchasing power getting into goods and services. So you kind of expect more traffic in the malls. So we like the retail space. And that when you actually look at the valuation overall, whether it's fixed income or whether it's equities, valuations are actually attractive. So what we have shared with our policyholders is that this roller coaster ride is going to stay, right? Because we're basically reacting to global news, right? That's sentiment. But if you look at the trajectory of the Philippines, it is actually stable. Real interest rates are high with inflation expectations going down and valuations are low. So we encourage them, when you see panic, when you see the screen red, that's actually an opportunity to pick up.
Okay, we're gonna keep tabs of that, and I hope nobody is colorblind to
Yeah.
actually be in a position to panic. We're well
Yeah.
beyond that. Well, thank you so much, Angie Pacis. Really appreciate your insights of AIA Investment
Thank,
Management Philippines.
thank you, Kathy.